All right, welcome to our Rapture series with Joel Richardson. Today we are in session 8. We are going to talk about a third temple that has to be built before the return of Jesus, before the rapture. It all ties into the timing of the rapture. Joel, I was talking to someone the other day, and he actually is a pastor. And I mentioned the temple being rebuilt, and he was so shocked. He goes, "What? Like you actually believe but we're the temple?" And I was like, what? You're a pastor. And then it dawned on me, like, apparently Christians don't all think about this the same way. I feel like saying, could you just read Ezekiel? Like, what is it, 40? But anyway, so, man, you take the floor on that one because I don't know, one more thing that makes me crazy.
Yeah, Christians absolutely very strongly do not agree on this one. And this is a huge controversy. So to be clear, we are temples.
Right.
In the New Testament, Jesus himself was a temple. He said, tear down this temple. And it goes on, it says, but he meant his own body. We are individual. Don't you know that you're a temple of the Holy Spirit? You know, what does light have to do with darkness and salt water and all that? But also, the church itself corporately is a temple. We are being built up as, a corporate temple. So you and I individually and other Christians are temples. The church corporately is a temple. But none of this does away with the fact that there was still a temple.
Right.
And in fact, decades after the cross, Paul the Apostle in Acts 21, verse 24 through 26, was still participating in the temple, in the sacrifices. He took men in there. They had a Nazirite vow, which requires sacrificing animals. Paul was not just pretending to be a Jew. He was still participating. So there are some very, very wrong ideas among Christians. Most Christians they are completely ignorant of the meaning and the reasons for in the temple has to do with atoning for sins. And there's actually not a single sacrifice in the temple that atones for sins. Now, there are sin offerings,
Right.
but and most often, the vast majority of the temple sacrifices have to do with cleansing sacred space to make people ritually pure. You even have atonement for land and objects. So Jesus is the one sin for all, the only sacrifice ever, final sacrifice for sins. Before that, the only thing they had was the scapegoat. On the Day of Atonement, the scapegoat. Jesus is the only there will never ever be another sacrifice for sins, but God did command the temple to be built, and in fact, the scriptures actually say that Jesus, when he returns, he is the temple builder, and that he will rebuild a temple, and that's a temple that comes after the temple that we will see that will be desecrated, that it will be made desolate, that it will be defiled by the Antichrist. Now, here's the thing. The scriptures are clear that the temple will be defiled by the Antichrist. In order to defile something, it has to have been previously holy.
Right.
In fact, in Revelation 11, it's called God's holy temple. So yes, there will be a temple rebuilt. When the scriptures talk about that, the Antichrist setting himself up in the temple, he's not setting himself up in the church.
Right.
Some people believe that. And here's another important point for those that will contend with me on this point. When you look at the language in the book of Daniel that talks about the temple being defiled, the abomination of desolation, it actually uses very clear architectural language on the wing of abominations.
Well, okay.
And so on and so forth. So no one in the world would read Daniel and think he was talking about a spiritual temple. Like
Right.
everything in context is that's a physical building. And then Jesus says, when you see the abomination that causes desolation, that was spoken of by Daniel.
Right.
So he's not saying, hey, here are all these examples of a physical temple being abominated. Now I want you to watch for the spiritual Antichrist sitting in your, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's to ignore the clear architectural language, the literal language that Jesus is referencing.
Now,
Again,
the Ezekiel temple will be, I don't know, would you call it the fourth temple? Like the temple
yeah,
when Jesus returns,
yes.
then that Ezekiel's temple is that one. So ultimately, there's four temples. Am I looking at that right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Usually they'll call Herod's temple the second temple period. The Antichrist will be the third temple, and that gets destroyed. And then Jesus, during in Ezekiel, describes the millennial temple that would be the fourth temple. You could call it that. Yeah.
Exactly. So tie this in with the rapture then, as far as the temple that will be rebuilt that the Antichrist will sit on, because that's all kind of linked in there, I think.
Well, because in Second Thessalonians, Paul tells us that the definitive thing to watch for. Here's how you know. Here is the definitive sign that the rapture has not happened, that our gathering together hasn't happened, because we haven't seen the Antichrist sit himself in the temple of God. So he's not telling us something that would be easy to miss in some metaphorical, spiritual sense that we're all not even sure what he's talking about. He is talking about something that is easy to identify. You can see it with your eyeballs. You can say, there he is, sitting in the temple. Therefore, we know what's coming next. You don't say, hey, I'm going to solve a mystery by giving you a clear sign and then just refer to some spiritual nonsense that nobody even really knows what he's talking about. It was a clear, definitive issue that we were to watch for. And again, right now in the church, because of the division between half of the church embraces replacement theology and then half of the church rejects it, there is tremendous controversy over issues like Israel. Like the church is so divided over Israel. But if you think the church is divided over this, wait until the temple is rebuilt, the third temple. It is going to be the single most controversial issue in the church. It's going to throw people into fits of hysteria. There will be some different opinions. Some people will say, well, I'm not opposed to it, but I won't participate in it. Some people say, that's fine for the Jews. I don't want anything to do with it. Then there's other Christians that will say, hey, Paul the Apostle participated. We should too. It's commanded. And then there's going to be those that say it's a complete, utter, absolute abomination that it Jesus. I hear people say that all the time. And you're going to have everyone all along the spectrum, and the church is going to be profoundly divided. I think having clarity on this issue is actually a very important pastoral reality for pastors right now, because it's real. Like we are going to face it possibly even soon. I won't get into all the different stories, but there's some real reasons to believe that we're going to see it, maybe within the next decade.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Give us some story.
So, with all that's happening with Trump, Trump loves to be the guy that does what he wants to be, the greatest president ever. He gets shot at and he's like, hey, all the greats, they try to assassinate the greats. Like he sees it as like a badge of honor.
Right.
And he wants to be the one that solves Middle Eastern peace, the one that Clinton failed at, that Carter botched horrifically. He wants to be the guy that if there's a challenge, he wants to leave his mark in history. Right. He's going out, swan song, bang. And then he's got Jared Kushner working it. So he's already got the foundation, which is the Abrahamic Accords, the ultimate. And he wants to be, a hero to Israel. He wants the Jews to love him. Again, his daughter converted to Judaism. Ivanka and Jared are Jews. And there is a growing. So interestingly, after October 7th, before October 7th, a lot of Israelis, they would say like, hey, I'm an Israeli. But they didn't really massively identify with Judaism, with their faith. After October 7th, with what they've seen in the world, a lot of Jews are becoming a bit more devout. Not necessarily devout, but they're embracing their identity as Jews. And one of the things that is bringing with it is a desire to see, hey, the Muslims got their place, why can't we have our temple? We're always willing to say, hey, we just want peace, but there's kind of this thing that's saying, no, like we deserve, like the Christians got their places, the Muslims have that. We need our temple too. This is commanded.
Exactly.
Even among, some of the more secular. So that's rising in Israel. Then there's a desire to actually see it on behalf of the American government. And a few years ago, there was a story that was told to me by someone who was there, who I trust. And it was a gathering of really prominent rabbis and leading Muslim leaders, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, in Jerusalem, in this very private meeting where they were talking about it's time to end the cycle of violence and to build the Jewish temple. And this will be the emblem of us all getting along, all of the kumbaya type of stuff that we imagine. And but the money people were there, willing to put up money as incentive to kind of revitalize East Jerusalem, $500 million to get started, with $500 million in escrow just to begin the rebuilding. And, there's definitely always been a desire among a lot of the religious leaders, the Orthodox Jews, some of them, to see it rebuilt. So the scriptures teach it. Social, cultural, religious trends, political trends are moving in that direction. And we don't know the timing on these things, but it would not shock me in the least bit if even within the next year or two, we hear this type of stuff in the news. And again, some of the people going the most gaga crazy won't be Muslims, but it'll actually be Christians.
Well, I laugh because when I see what Trump's doing, everyone freaks out, but I'm like, I feel like in a sense, God is just using him to bring all this end time stuff on even faster. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like we want peace in the Middle East, and then the next thing to come, of course, would have to be the temple. So it just seems like God is using him. And there was no other president, but Trump just seems to be going for it. So it kind of makes sense. So, okay, good. Well, so we just know, I always tell people, they say, what do I look for? And I say, well, the first thing you should look for is the rebuilding of the temple, whatever that looks like. So once that happens, then you probably need to start paying attention. Would you agree? Will the temple be there a long time, you think? Or, I mean, do we not know? Is it like, oh, the temple will be there for 100 years before this happens? Or is it a pretty rapid succession, you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We really don't know. I would expect it not to be that long. Yeah. But here's an important point that needs to be made is it may not be a real substantial brick and mortar structure. It could be something as simple as a tent that could go up really quite rapidly. The main issue to watch for is the offerings.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes. That they're
I do expect that we will see a big substantial brick and mortar structure. But I mean, something like that takes a couple of years. Even if billions of dollars are there, I would expect it to take at least 2 years to see it. I've even seen, the blueprints. They've set forth blueprints. And most of them, by the way, want to place it just to the north of the Dome of the Rock, which is the gold dome, the iconic gold dome that everybody knows, sometimes called the Mosque of Omar. But that's distinct from Al-Aqsa, which is about 100 yards to the south, which is the much smaller lead dome. Right. That's the real controversial one. They always go, the Jews want to destroy Al-Aqsa, and there's no truth to that. They just want to build something to the north of that golden dome. Most likely, that's what I expect to see. Is it'll fill that area.
Whose land is it? Like is all the land? Is the land that the dome and the Al-Aqsa sits on? Is it Israel's land, or I mean, can they control it? Because I know there's a big control issue over there.
Yeah, so Israel polices it, but it's under the kind of the authority of what's called the Waqf, which is under Jordanian control.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So, yeah, so it's kind of this stewarded no man's land. Here's what's interesting is we go up there all the time when I take tours. It's just interesting to walk on the single most controversial contested piece of property in all of human history. Not only right now, but back thousands of years. That spot has been the single most controversial contested piece of property, and it's where Jesus says that he's going to rule forever. Mm-hmm. In fact, let me just highlight this verse in Ezekiel, because because I think it's pretty significant. Ezekiel, I think it's 47. Do I have it highlighted? Oh, no, I'm sorry, 47. Is it 44? Oh, now I'm not going to read through 7 chapters to find it with my bad eyes, but the Lord says to Ezekiel, he says, "Son of man," and he shows him the temple, the Ezekiel's temple, and he says, "This is the place where the soles of my feet will dwell forever, for I have chosen it. This is the spot of my throne, where I will rule among my people Israel forever." Like, that's the spot, and therefore Satan, who always is, "I will ascend, I will be like the Most High." Satan, from the beginning of the story, has always wanted that throne. He's wanted that spot. And therefore, it is literally the epicenter of spiritual warfare, which manifests in the natural geopolitical controversy outwardly. And, it doesn't take tremendous discernment. For all the people that go, "Oh, God's done with Israel, that place has zero relevance." Again, as I always say, if God's done with Israel, Satan clearly has not received the memo, because it continues to be this hotbed, this epicenter of spiritual controversy.
So who makes that decision, Joel? Like, hey, we're going to build the temple right next to the dome. Do you have to get permission from the Muslims, or do you have to get permission from Jordan, or who makes that decision?
You fill out an application, get some permits. No.
It's a big deal over there.
It would be a huge international decision made between Israel and Jordan, and most likely multiple other Muslim nations, including, I would say, Saudi Arabia, the United States. It would be a big, massive international agreement.
Which is exactly what Trump would be really good at facilitating. Exactly. There you go. All right. Yay. Joel, thank you. The next session, we're going to talk about practical things that we can do. Like, okay, now that I know that there is no pre-tribulation rapture and all the things I'm going to have to go through, what should I start doing to get prepared? So that's what we're going to talk about next time. So we'll see you then.